So let's dive straight in. We are today talking about the 5 ways to well-being, and I don't know if this is a framework that people are already familiar with. It's something which has been around for a good while now. It's a fantastic way of looking at the kind of the holistic needs of personal well-being. We have more than one box that we each need to have ticked. So this is a good way of kind of breaking that down into a framework, and it overlays beautifully with a community engagement program. 5 Ways to Wellbeing is something which I used to train when I worked in care homes. I used to work with activity coordinators and train activity teams so that they could deliver a vibrant and diverse set of activities, so that residents, from whatever walk of life or whatever interest they had something which ticked their boxes and catered for them. And I was speaking to a couple of offices in recent months around what they're up to and wanting to introduce some new ideas to their programme. And this felt like a perfect overlay. So today we are going to be looking at the 5 ways to wellbeing and how this can enhance your programme, but how we can also actually use it as a really good way to potentially open doors to new partners as well. So today, what will we cover? We will be kicking off by understanding, well, what are the 5 ways to wellbeing if you haven't ever heard of it before? So what are the 5 ways to wellbeing, and why they can matter to us in the kind of the home care scenario? I've mentioned care homes, but we've got a very different operating environment. We're going to go on to co-create a bit of a playbook, actually. Something which you will be able to download from the platform, but pick up and use to audit the engagement program you have in your local area. You might use it to audit your What's on Where guide, and think about maybe some gaps that you might have in your provision, or opportunities for partners as a result. And then we're going to do exactly that. So think about how the 5 ways can drive us forward. So some key benefits to look forward to in the session. So as always, I would love to have you involved and contributing throughout. So if you're happy to grab your handset and scan in with the QR code. Oh, lovely. You guys know exactly what you're doing. I can see people jumping in immediately. Phoebe, if you can make a note of the Mentimeter code and drop it into the chat for anybody who's joining us slightly later. But what we'll do, as always, we're going to start with a bit of a temperature check. We're going to let you rank a few statements, just so that we're using Mentimeter, but also we can see where we feel we are today. So I would love you to agree or disagree with the following statements. So have a read through. So the first one is, our community engagement program has good variety and a range of different types of activities on offer to our clients and to our local area. Then the second statement is, I can clearly explain the purpose behind the activities that we run. And if you're wondering, by the way, why your responses haven't popped up yet, I've set it so that it pops up at the end, and it's a nice surprise for everyone, so that nobody's led by anybody else's responses. They're all valid. And then the final statement, of course, our community activities help us build stronger partnerships with local health and social care contacts. So, goodness me, we're nearly at the full 10 respondees. So I'm going to click on to show the responses. I think you can still contribute your response if you haven't as yet. But but some really good, strong showings here, which is fantastic. It doesn't mean we don't still have new things to add as we go through the session, but fantastic that we are already thinking about the purposes behind the activities that we run. That is the key element and influencer for then introducing our programme to people like social prescribers, to our local GPs, and say, actually, there's some validation to the work that we're doing, the way that we support our clients and our local communities. So really positive. Okay, so what is the benefits that we should be looking forward to? So why a wellbeing framework? Why are we looking to overlay this with the community engagement work that we're already doing? So when we started formulating Care to Connect, which is now around 18 months ago, certainly over a year ago, one of the things which became very obvious very quickly when we spoke to different offices in the network was people were doing brilliant things, but they were doing it in their own way. And this isn't about creating a homogenized approach for everybody. It was more to highlight the fact that it's very easy to go down the path of least resistance or towards the areas where we feel most confident. And so what do I mean? In that example, it might be our community engagement officer has a background in physio, or they maybe were an OT at some point. And so they feel really happy running Move It or Lose It sessions, or possibly Singing for the Brain sessions. So some maybe more of those active sessions for clients to get engaged with, but maybe not around dementia awareness or some of the other partnership sessions. So it might be that they're slightly weighted to one end of what we might call then this 5 Ways to Wellbeing framework. We also know, and again from our last roundtable that we had last month, we've got gatekeepers at GP surgeries, ICBs, discharge teams that we know well, who don't necessarily want to promote home instead because they're a private business, and that can be a stumbling block. However, and this leans directly into the opportunity, by aligning with a recognised framework, and the 5 Ways to Wellbeing is recognised across the NHS, especially by social prescribers actually, as a way of improving and measuring well-being, especially in older adults as well. That actually, if we can align ourselves with that framework, we start speaking a language that they know and trust, and we can get to those points of similarity before the points of difference. So we're trying to position ourselves rather than a private provider, but more as a community partner. And so in order to do that, we want to be evidencing the wellbeing outcomes within those conversations. And so that's something which, in the previous slide, it sounds like we've got a good idea of what some of those wellbeing outcomes might be and the reasons behind why we put certain activities on. Are we measuring them on a regular basis? Is there some data that we can call back to which might help to unlock some of these conversations and move them a bit further on? And of course, the opportunity here as well is, if we're not building our own varied program, that we can actually be building a program with a range of different partners. And so again, a really good way to then embed ourselves in a community of people who all want people to age well in our local communities. So a huge opportunity ahead of us. So I've talked a lot about the 5 ways. I haven't said what the 5 ways are. So let's tick that off now, and then we can dive into them. So originally developed by the New Economics Foundation on the back of a lot of research around sort of what the key indicators of wellness and well-being should be. And then adopted more broadly by the NHS and local authorities, social prescribers, as I've mentioned, as a good way of making sure that as somebody who's coming to receive support services, actually, are we reaching every dimension of well-being that somebody might need? So the first is to connect, and this beds in around relationships, belonging, reducing loneliness. Loneliness, obviously a key contributor to kind of poor health outcomes, something which is very much in the sights of people in health and social care. Remaining active, we know how important that is. I don't need to dwell on that point initially, but staying active right into older age with adaptations where we need it is very important to our well-being. Taking notice of the world around us. So mindfulness often gets cited within this pillar. But mindfulness doesn't need to be that you go into moments of meditation or specific mindfulness exercises, so they can be really helpful. It could be around having simple rituals that our care professionals know about and help clients to acknowledge and repeat on a regular basis or a daily basis, which helps keep people present. Keep learning. So this is something, again, people are probably aware of a university of the third age in their local area, a U3A, but really good for keeping the mind sharp is to continue to be curious and to go out and learn new skills or practice and maintain existing skills and interests. So that keep learning pillar, very, very important. And then the final pillar is to give. And this is all about, of course, purpose, and something which so many of the clients that we look after and people living in care homes, one of the things which is really important to do is continue to derive value from day-to-day life. And that is so often in giving back and sharing opinions and contributing to things. So finding ways in order to do that can be really, really useful. For those, in fact, actually, for those who in the room who we do social media work with outside of Care to Connect, you've all received, I think, a message today from Jen asking for clients, if we can get videos of clients to contribute, what did they do in their teenage years to stay connected with their friends and do things with their friends, which we want to do as part of a campaign, knowing that teenagers won't be able to use social media in the next 12 months. So something to align there. So that's a nice, simple way in which clients might be able to contribute and give back in some way. So if you're on that email distribution list, we would love to know what your clients think. But if not, and you're interested in doing the campaign as well, I'm sure we can make the templates for that available to you, so you can do a bit of video work. So, well, I'll move on. I think I'm probably pausing too much already, feeling chatty. So the first pillar is connect. So what does this look like in home care? So this is all about relationships. So some typical examples of this will be befriending. We know we do companionship calls. That's very much baked into the Home Instead offering. Most of you will have a companionship cafe or chatty mornings kind of as a core part of the offering and your community engagement offering. Intergenerational sessions are always high on the list when they're possible, working with nurseries. So lots of these ideas won't be alien to you. But why does this matter so much when it comes to partnership working? Well, from a social prescriber and a GP perspective, they're looking for people in their local area who need support, and it is to drive down and reduce the risks of loneliness. And so a big evidencing factor for activities in the Connect bracket is that we are reducing loneliness. What we are doing, as I mentioned at the beginning, is we're going to be co-creating a bit of a playbook for how any office can bring to life a number of these different activities. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you guys to jump in and do is share some of the activities that you do in your local area specifically to help older adults and our clients connect or stay connected with their local community. So have a little think, and what kind of things are you doing? And it'd be great if we're able to kind of feed off each other a little bit through these contributions. Lovely. I can hear thinking very hard. Music therapy is such a good one. It's such a good one. So companionship cafes, special events, painting workshops, staying in touch with cafe members, absolutely. And I think it's always great when you get a membership, which is a long-standing one, where you get repeat attendance. That's a huge benefit as well. So love to sing, walking football, knit and natter, companionship calls. Dementia events, digital support sessions are a fantastic one. Companionship lunches with activities, and they can change every week and every month, of course. Memory cafes coming soon, partnership with art. Workshop. Oh, well done, guys. These are great. Singing sessions, tech support, community information events, particularly around living well with dementia. And these events include marketplace of information, fantastic way of highlighting, I'm guessing, local partnerships, and expert talks and live music. There's nothing quite like live music. Fantastic. Oh, we've got awareness sessions. Oh, great, they're still coming. Fire service engagement, memory cafes, ballroom dancing, companionship walks. That sounds like a great one. That's combining that and certainly one of the other pillars, be active. Partnership with other cafe in activities and having talks. Nail care at assistance, living whilst... Oh, very good, very good. Okay, I'm going to move us on. I'm going to harvest all of these after the session, and they're going to go into our playbook alongside some suggestions that we've got, but these are all fantastic. And what we want to do, and we'll make sure that this is really clear and obvious in the playbook as well, is thinking about how we then speak about these once they are off and running, and how we might go about measuring these. So we know that with the Connect sessions, we want to know consistency beats scale. So when we're doing talks, sometimes if they're around quite specific topics, they can become sort of quarterly. When we're talking about Connect, we're really focusing on bringing people together on as regular basis as possible, so that it becomes part of their routine. This is also a great opportunity to encourage ownership of the group. So can people take on roles? Can people be the host? Can they welcome people as people arrive? And can they be involved in buddying up with people who are arriving for the first time and attending for the first time? So getting the members engaged in the actual running of the sessions might certainly make things easier for you if you're a community engagement officer running these sessions, but can be a great way of building up people's confidence as well. And always try and capture stories when people are coming, especially if they're coming for the first time. Why is this so meaningful to them? And a big part, and obviously we have a marketing hat on quite a lot of the time, but talking about the impact of these sessions, we really do want to capture those stories and understand and be able to articulate the difference that we're making. So some useful points of evidence. And actually, before we do, and please feel free to take your microphone off for this one. Let's open this one up to the group. Does anybody regularly track any specific measures from their community engagement sessions? And if they do, what are they? I'd love to know.
Like numbers, I know it's pretty basic, but I sort of keep a track of, you know, how many people attend.
I don't think that's basic at all. I think like it's absolutely a fundamental starting point. We want to know actually how many people are we engaging with on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. How, you know, and also of those people, how long have they been attending for? And does that because once we've started capturing that information, it's much easier to identify trends and whether people are inviting friends or they're referring to other sessions. So the way that we might track it is possibly something which could become more sophisticated over time. But starting with attendance is a really, really good place to start. What we might also want to start doing in some of the sessions, and it can be done in isolation, it can be done as a one-off experiment, but pre and post session mood checks. So you might have seen when you go through an airport, or if you're in Tesco's, sometimes when you're doing the shopping, you'll get those smiley faces just asking you to rate your experience. And the smiley faces, the 5 faces, is called a visual analog scale, and it's something which is really easy to engage with. Certainly, a lot of our clients, even clients living with dementia, it's a great scale that they can engage with as well. So having some before and after measures on mood, especially for people coming to the sessions, that might be something which you could introduce with a very simple tick sheet. That might be a good one to try out. And we mentioned peer involvement and taking on a role. If you can show and talk about times where clients have come in and actually taken a kind of a guiding role within the session, that's a fantastic achievement for some people, and something really to be kind of sort of championed within the session as well as outside in those partnership conversations, which we'll come on and talk about a bit later on. Okay, so that's our first pillar. So we're going to go through and we're going to repeat the process on across the 5 pillars so that we fill out our playbook. So next we've got be active. We know movement matters at every age, and some of the sessions that we have suggested in the Connect comments box above probably tip into be active as well. So when I ask you for contributions, please do, even if you feel like you're repeating yourself, throw them in again, because it's useful to have them in the right bucket. But we would know these sessions as our Move It or Lose It, our gentle chair-based exercise sessions. Somebody mentioned companionship walks already, and ballroom dancing was mentioned. But strength and balance, anywhere that we can get that in is vitally important for people, especially if they've got an elevating falls risk. And that's something which occupational therapists are going to be keen to hear about. Discharge teams, when they're talking about people coming home, knowing that people are coming into, that we are a provider who caters for a lot of these types of exercises which keep people independent as well as happy and healthy. We want to be able to speak about that if we can, with that level of detail. So I would love to know what kind of be active ideas are you doing in your local area, or have you seen potentially but maybe not engaged with yet? So any ideas, and please, if you've submitted them in the previous box, please do contribute them again, because it's really helpful having these buckets filled up. I'm going to chuck in a couple here as well. Lovely. Singing and dance groups, absolutely. Absolutely. Often the singing and the dancing combine obviously very well, but they're obviously a very good social way of connecting as well. Lovely. Got walking football, walking netball, walking rugby. These are great. I've never seen walking rugby, actually, as it happens. I'd like to have a go at it, though. Seated tap, that's another one I'd like to do, definitely. Chair-based yoga, armchair Zumba, a dementia disco. I did do when one care home I was working in, we did a silent disco once, which went down very well. I don't know if you've done a silent disco before, but they are a lot of fun. So we have all these groups in our community. Our role is to go out to these groups add them to our What's On Where guide, and build relationships that can lead referrals. And I think that's a really solid point. You can't run all of these sessions yourselves, but where they are running in the local area, what a great opportunity for partnership and highlighting and using that What's On Where guide. And that often becomes then the entry point to the decision makers, or possibly the social prescribers. We often can end up highlighting things to them that they weren't aware of. Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. So I'm going to move us on. With these sessions, we want to make sure they are as inclusive as possible, as I'm sure they will be, but multiple ability levels in one session so that we can get as many people through as possible. They are naturally social sessions. Conversations are as important as movement, but great to have a dedicated space for the movement within our program. And fun sessions obviously are great for driving repeat attendance. So going back again to the evidencing piece, and I think this is going to be kind of a key element, and I think we will put out some real guidance on what these measures can be and some simple ways to introduce them at your sessions, which don't feel like too much of an admin burden, because it is these measures which are going to be the conversation starters for so many of the partnerships. So we've got repeat attendance and simple mobility checks, reducing falls risk and greater mobility. So this can be checked with a self-report from some of our clients on are they having slips and trips, or how great is their fear of having a fall at home. And increased confidence with participation. So again, these pre and post session mood or energy checks, actually doing an energy check at the end of the session afterwards. So really wanting to show that our sessions have that value and they bring those benefits is great. So our next pillar, our third pillar, is around taking notice. And so what does that look like? Well, this can be reminiscent sessions with music, photos, imagery, could be old. I'm not sure. Has anybody attended cognitive stimulation therapy sessions in their local area? They're a very well kind of put together framework, again, for a lot of group reminiscent sessions. So if you've spied those, or if you've maybe even done the training yourself, they're fantastic. Nature walks and sensory boxes, mindful colouring and craft afternoons. So as you can imagine, the taking notice, a lot of this leans into that kind of sensory element. So sight, smell, touch. And so cooking can be a good one to do between a care pro and a client at home as well. So why does this matter for partnerships? So for dementia services, memory clinics, Admiral nurses, knowing that you have got elements like this within the activity programme is going to be a very attractive thing for them, especially if you're coming across or running services that they're not necessarily already aware of. So maybe with that hat on, and maybe with the dementia provision hat on, and I know that a lot of clients and a lot of the offices specialise in dementia provision, dementia awareness, and creating dementia-friendly communities. Maybe with that hat on to answer this question. So, what take notice activities could you offer, or could you co-host, or do you offer or co-host at the moment? And what I'll do is I'll throw cognitive stimulation therapy. Or CST, as it's also known, in there, so that people have it in the notes if they don't do it already. Poetry sessions are great. So it sounds like somebody does do CST already. So I've got memory cafes, dementia talks, knit and natter. So sensory gardens and sensory walks are also good. Sure, lots of you go to garden centres actually and do things like that. Bird watching on Wimbledon Common bird watching anywhere is a good one actually. I'm not sure if anybody has downloaded the Merlin app, but it's a fantastic app that you can just take out and about with you. You could do this with a client. Mel's raising her hand. She knows, in fact, I'm pretty confident that Mel's put bird watching on Wimbledon Common in there, which made me think of this actually, Mel. And the phone will start recording all the bird noises, and then it will tell you which birds are singing. That's a fantastic app and activity for Take Notice. Got the Dementia Disco in there. We've got the Sensory Gardens and Sensory Walk. Group has Gadgets of Yesterday Era, and we have to guess what it's called and used for. This was a great session. It sounds like a great session. So I'm guessing there's some mystery things in the box there, which we probably don't use anymore. Brilliant, and all great ways of orientating people to today. And this is a lot of what CST is about. It's a lot of what the dementia sessions can be about, but orientating our reality to the here and now, the today. So thinking about the weather, thinking about the time of year and the seasons, things like that. So as you can imagine, in these sessions, it's all about slowing things down and allowing people to be present, really leaning into making things as sensory as possible, and keeping groups small and calm. And I don't know how much already as community engagement teams, whether this bleeds over into the care pros and their individual calls, but a care pro could have a really, really valuable session like this during a call with a client, especially around meal times. So I don't know how much that's already highlighted to care pros, but certainly an opportunity. And so how might we evidence things in the Take Notice camp or pillar? So this might be observation-led. So how calm are people during and after the session? And observing, again, people's focus and how much people are able to focus through a session. This is one of the key things that people look at in those CST sessions, is actually how does people engagement from beginning to end improve across a series of sessions. So that can be a really interesting one to track if you have the capability or the capacity to do that whilst running a session. And of course, a greater sense of routine and daily meaning. So finding those things that are important to people, those things which are key to the daily routine. A tea ritual is such an anchor one for so many of us. But well, for me, it's coffee. And I hope that when somebody's caring for me, they make me a nice black coffee in first thing in the morning. Then it's important to be able to have those which bring people into the current moment and grounds people. So next we've got keep learning, and I mentioned, and as we know, keep learning at any stage, it keeps that neuroplasticity, it keeps the brain flowing, really important. So somebody's already mentioned tech help sessions. Often it's possible to kind of partner with, well, libraries do this, some banks do this as well, and it can be just sessions around how to get on WhatsApp, how to do FaceTime, things like that. Scam awareness. So lots of these kind of awareness sessions fall under this bracket. But we also want to be catering for special interest groups. So that can be the history groups. The U3A are very good at this. So it might be arts and crafts, but also history of music and history of art and things like that, which really kind of dig into some specialist topics which clients just love. So why does this matter? It's a great way to tap into existing groups that our clients might benefit from, and can be a really good way of generating local PR. Finding, especially when somebody's had a really strong affiliation or a career in a certain topic, and they're able to continue it in a meaningful way, or pass on those knowledge and skills to possibly other generations or other groups. that can create some really, really good and powerful local stories. So what ways do you keep clients learning, or what opportunities are there in the local area for older adults, people maybe living at home who benefit from more community connection? What kind of learning activities and sessions could we be running? Again, anything that you're doing here, I think, be great to have that shared for the other officers attending. So attendance allowance, that's very good to be able to highlight that, especially to, of course, to family members who have become carers, often unwittingly. So that's really important. And scam awareness, unfortunately, is such an important topic. Falls team for seated chair exercises. So the falls team in your local area are obviously a really important team to have good contact with, and getting them to come along and talk about adaptations that can be made at home. Cooking, Fish Friday, photography is a great one because everyone's got a camera now. Most people have got a camera on their phone. Fire services, keeping things safe at home, yes. Financial, legal, partnering with libraries, especially if you've got a mobile library service on your doorstep, lucky enough to have something like that. Digital talks from others. So accessing online talks and online groups is a really good point, actually, because we're talking about getting people out into the local area, but actually sometimes that's not as possible for some of our clients and some people. So can we make the talks that we're doing digital webinars, and very much in the way that we are today, that clients and people from the local community can attend in a virtual capacity? These are fantastic. And a visit from an author. Great if you've got an author to hand, if you can hunt one down, but also from artists as well. If you can get sort of special sessions, special interest sessions running, they're fantastic, and they are often very well attended as well. So some top tips: always keeping it practical and relevant, getting people involved and able to contribute in the sessions. That really helps with attendance and re-attendance. I'm saying keeping it informal and social so it doesn't turn into a classroom, but I'm possibly the worst. I'm possibly the worst for this because I've been talking at you all now non-stop for 40 minutes. So it's not been very informal or social. So I apologise for that. So don't do as I do. do better. But what are we looking to track and evidence? So really around mental stimulation. So what are people doing over time, completing tasks? Are they working on projects? So men in sheds groups can be perfect for this. You know, completing something over a longer period and sticking with things is a really good point of evidence. So increasing confidence. So mention a couple of cooking sessions, but using technology, again, any area in which we can evidence advancement or step forward is really useful in case studies that we might put together or testimonials we might gather. And then, of course, social interaction. So attendance and repeat attendance. And I think it was Kat who at the beginning said, like, this is a core thing that she's tracking. Having attendance and repeat attendance trends is the underlying metric across all of our sessions, which is really valuable and tells us an awful lot about the success of our programs. And then the final pillar is then to give. So the contribution and giving back. So what can that look like? So it can be companionship, befrienders, volunteers. It could be linking in possibly with activities that tie back to home instead charities and raising money. It's clients who may be sharing their knowledge or their skills. And care pros may be finding an opportunity to go in and mentor in their role, especially if there are the local colleges who are people are coming into social care and doing their health and social care qualifications, being able to do mentoring and on-the-job support. That's an interesting opportunity as well. And sometimes, and I've heard about this, sometimes neighbourhood ground force days can be a good one to get involved with, and clients like to get involved with keeping their area clean. So is there ways of getting out and engaged with those kinds of sessions? So really important, very fundamental for community. So much of community engagement is around that altruism and wanting to give back. And it's such a feature of the care professional group. It is all about giving to others. And so so many people, it's naturally in them to want to give back. So finding opportunities where clients continue to be able to give back is well worth finding. So is this an area where you guys have had some success already? Do you have ways of ensuring clients are engaged, are able to give back, are able to volunteer or take on roles within groups that you run? Anything in this regard would be really, really useful to hear about. Food bank donations is a fantastic one. Raising funds for dementia through walking with clients. What a fantastic idea. What a brilliant idea. Care Pros running social lunches, bringing people together. That's nice. Some members help with tea and coffee. The lady with dementia hands out the quiz sheets. Brilliant. Community litter pick organised by our Altrincham. What does BID stand for? Good for community and networking. I should know that. What does BID stand for?
It's Business Improvement District.
Business Improvement District, of course it is.
Sorry, I might not spell it right. Sorry.
Yeah, well, no, that as soon as you said it, yeah, of course. No, that's an important one. So joining fundraisers, absolutely. And that, of course, actually, that's a really good metric to have a track on. If you are regularly engaged with fundraising and doing things, how much has been collected over the year for how many different organisations or causes that clients have then got sort of direct involvement with? That can be a great one to track as well. And these can be really, really powerful social media posts, drip fed throughout the year going, did you know we make this X amount of impact in this X specific area? So the dementia disco has now cropped up on lots of these. I want to go to one of these. They sound great. I once did. It was for it was a 24-hour disco in a lounge in a care home, and it was pretty tight. It was for charity. It wasn't for my own benefit, but I don't know whether I'd be able to repeat it. What are our tips here? What are we looking at? So celebrating, exactly as I just mentioned, contributions publicly. These are all about gathering stories, not just numbers, but stories as well, and focusing on purpose, not just productivity. Actually, this is a really good way of getting clients, again, out of their homes, back into the community and doing something really, really positive that they can feel very proud of. And often family members then can rally behind that as well and support with that as well. So it's a really important part of this. So how do we evidence this? So, well, a way of tracking it, and somebody mentioned it in the last contributions, but taking on roles. So whether it's handing out quizzes, whether it's making the tea, it's a great way of evidencing people having a role in their local community, which is meaningful. Reducing loneliness, so we can observe social interaction, we can track that with measures. But again, the repeat attendance is a really great way of evidencing reduced and reductions in loneliness, and increased community participation. So are we getting referrals, or are we seeing people attending the groups that we're running, then attending lots of other groups or starting to attend lots of other groups. That's a very compelling trend to observe. So worth also tracking when people come to your sessions, are there other sessions that you are attending? And that can also be a really good way of finding out about local things that you might have been previously unaware of. So getting a track from people who attend your sessions, and then you can create a bit of a heat map or a community map, and make referrals for other people that might enjoy those sessions. So referrals is a great way of tracking it. So let's put it all together. What's this playbook going to be helpful for? Hopefully, it's going to give you a really quick audit to place over your current calendar. There might be, and we've got good responses across all of those 5 different dimensions. But are there areas where you feel like actually you've got the majority of your activities happening in one area, you're maybe slightly weaker in another area, and so you might want to have a bit more balance? If the reason that you're unbalanced is because maybe you're not confident, or you don't have the knowledge or the connections you need in a particular area, there's an area where you're a bit light, maybe give an action to yourself of reaching out to some new partners and saying, look, we've got this great 5 ways program, but we really need more opportunities for our clients to get involved in physical activity sessions. Can we come to your sessions? So maybe it's an opportunity to start some conversations. And then for those of you who are using the WOW guides, they are naturally a great tool for making introductions. But if you're not already, if you're measuring the benefits of the sessions that you're already running, and even if you just had 5 statistics, 5 points, 1 for each of the different pillars, that's a very, very good way of starting a conversation with a social prescriber or a GP and saying, look, this is the difference that we're making in this way. Have you got are you looking after any patients that would benefit from these services? So having a bit of evidence to underpin the work that you're already doing can be really, really useful. And all of it kind of goes back to that mission-led statement, which is about making our local area a great place to age. Everything in that program is around improving our local area. And this is where there's an opportunity to just segue over into recruitment, and think about how actually some of these elements could support the recruitment of care pros, because we know the more of these sessions that we attend on a regular basis, the more people we're going to be exposed to who might make excellent care professionals. And it can be very tempting when we are running a session ourselves, when we are the hosts, to have a roller banner in the corner which says we're hiring, and to hand out recruitment flyers for anybody who's new, or to be quite upfront with that message to say, look, join us as a care pro. And instead, it might be easier when we're seeing people attending those sessions for the first time, or we're attending and we're meeting people there who might feel like a good opportunity to kind of split the offer and say, look, if you're enjoying this session, we run other sessions in the community. Maybe you'd like to volunteer at one of our events. Another great way that you can contribute to making the local area a great place to age well is you could also become a care pro. So that way it's less of a yes or no around a very specific recruitment ask, but it's more about getting somebody involved with the general cause that we're looking to push forward. So possibly a softer way of opening up that conversation and asking people to get involved. But always worth, especially if you're running it yourself, having a poster or a list of other sessions that you run or are aware of, or your WOW guide on hand, so that you can get people to refer and kind of cross-pollinate across those local groups. And we always advocate for grabbing care pro stories when you can. So if you get somebody from one of these community events who then becomes a care pro, that's a golden story. That's a golden example. So try and capture that as a testimonial. You're going to want to use that in regularly, probably, both in blogs or social media, but in your recruitment as well. So that would be a very simple line that we would recommend. So if you enjoyed today and you'd like to make giving back to your local area, part of your daily life, then volunteer with us, become a part of our community engagement program, or become a care professional. And for those who joined the word of mouth webinar, which we ran now probably about 6 weeks ago or a couple of months ago, the reason why a statement like this works is because it leans into that social currency, the emotional connection, and ultimately having a purpose, rather than being sold to in the way that sometimes, excuse me, I've got a hiccup there, a brewing hiccup. A recruitment message can sometimes feel a bit of a hard sell, and a difficult one to get out with people. So because we're short on time, I've talked about these as we've gone through. This will appear in our playbook. But by starting to track the impact of the sessions you're already running and spreading the sessions you're running across 5 different ways of well-being, you're going to have lots of different inroads and conversation starters for these key people, key referral, key RPNs for us. So a really important part to acknowledge. Now, Mel's on the call, so sorry to embarrass you, Mel, but wanted to highlight that when you get into the mode of this, having an email newsletter which highlights these things that you're doing, the things within your program, it's really good to use the newsletter as a call to action for local businesses. So you do want local businesses and potential partners on your distribution list, because it can be a very fruitful way of getting partners to reach out and say, well, actually, I do something along these lines, or I do something here. And there's been a flurry of engagement recently for the Wimbledon and Kingston office in this regard. So we've seen lots of businesses wanting to get involved in the community engagement program. So a newsletter can be a great way to carry that evidence and those data points that you're gathering as well. Now, as you know, we always add some new templates and resources to Care to Connect for you to download. And recently, people have been asking us more and more about video content, creating video content for their social media channels. And of course, local video content that you've gathered yourselves is always the best, and a great opportunity. But it's difficult to know where to start. So each month we're going to start doing a video tips and camera tricks resource. And what this will do is it's going to give you a number of different ideas. So some prompts or some interview questions that you can ask, whether it's with a care pro, a member of the team, whether it's with a client, and some guidance on how to make sure you're getting the right angles, you're getting the right volume, but also you're getting consent so you know that you can use it. And we're giving you access through the platform to some templates on Canva, so you can then drop those video files into the templates, edit them as you need them, and export them and post them very, very quickly. So that's a new resource that we're putting together for you. And we always like to leave you with a bit of a challenge. This month, have a look at your current community activity and give it a bit of an audit. Where are you strong? Where are there potential gaps? Is there more that you could be doing to hit those different 5 ways of wellbeing and get those conversations started? And then that second chart, once you've done that, is reach out to local partners, talk about the 5 ways and the variety on offer within your community engagement program, and how you might bring that to life for them. And if you can, try the mission-led recruitment moment. So is there a way of inviting attendees to volunteer at one of your next sessions? So that journey into home instead, see if you can get that kicked off for anyone, or referring people, finding out about other events that they attend outside of yours and adding that to your list. So they'll be available to you later on today, I believe, Phoebe. I think you've scheduled those to go up and live. And next week, we're going to be running another one of our community roundtables. This one focused on values-based recruitment through community engagement. So we did a recruitment workshop with Ursula from Relish Recruitment. That raised loads of questions, lots of chat. And because of how much there was to talk about in that session, we know we didn't get through to answer all of the questions. So, but at an office level, you're doing a lot of this really well, and some people have got some real success stories. They're doing things actually quite differently to other offices, and so it's a good chance to kind of bring out some of those stories as a group. So that's one of the sessions where I will be talking less, which you will all be thankful for, I know. And then the final request is, if you've not signed up yet to activate your account on Care to Connect, let us know. We can send you a link to make sure that you can log in and access all these resources. But also, if you've got an upcoming community impact session, Phoebe will either be in touch or reach out to her. And finally, this is a real request, actually. If you could leave us your feedback this week, that'd be very, very helpful. We are going to be speaking with National Office in the next couple of weeks about community engagement. And so I want to be able to feed back as many different opinions and thoughts and ideas around what the wider homestead network would benefit from as possible. So if you can scan that and leave us your thoughts and suggestions and ideas, it would be ever so welcome. So I promise there's only 6 or 7 questions in there. It won't take very long, but would be immensely valuable. That brings us to time, almost exactly. So thank you ever so much, guys, for joining us today. It's been brilliant to run another session. Hopefully everybody can join us next week for the round table.